Law & Order has had an incredible run, and the show plus some of the spin-offs are some of the longest-running series on television. But as the world changes, the franchise does too. Sadly, some think that the new shows might be taking these changes a step too far and moving away from what made the franchise great. Is Law & Order having an identity crisis? Let's check out why fans are worried. What made the franchise great? None of these shows would have been able to make it for as long as they have without having been really great shows with some incredible characters and telling some really incredible stories. The original Law & Order has now returned for its 21st season, and the other longest-running spin-off, Law & Order Special Victims Unit, has been running for 23 seasons. That is really impressive, and no one can deny that Dick Wolf, the creator of this franchise, had to have come upon something that is incredibly special for it to go on for as long as it has. Police procedurals generally really hype the police and make them seem infallible, but for the most part, the characters in these shows have been really human. They have a lot of faults, but they work really hard on doing the best for the people who they serve. They are good people trying to do a really hard job the best way that they know how to just get the job done. They want to catch the bad guy and put them behind bars, and they want to make the world better. It might sound cheesy, but it works. In this franchise so far, the cops have always been the good guys, and if one is bad, he will face the consequences. But now with a new series, they are having a bit of an identity crisis. Next, Stabler from the past. Back in the day, there was Benson and Stabler. They were two very different cops, but both really cared, and they wanted to help the victims that they came across. That wasn't always easy, since nothing is ever completely simple, but they were a great team to watch. At the time, Stabler was a bit of a hothead, and he did get into trouble at times, especially since he didn't love the fact that he needed to follow the authority of those around him. His marriage also got into trouble every so often as the demands of the job and family life clashed. Fans have always loved the chemistry between Benson and Stabler and were rooting for them to eventually become a couple, but these were good people who would never cheat, and any feelings that they did have between them stayed strictly professional. They were supposed to be the heroes of the show after all, and that meant that they wouldn't allow them to cross the line. And that is very much what Stabler was in his SVU days. A hero, a man with flaws, but a hero. It was kind of the Law & Order way and what made their characters great, but then he left, and now he is back in Law & Order Organized Crime, and the Stabler we once knew has undergone a major transformation. Now, let's talk about Stabler now. First, just a warning for spoilers ahead. Since returning to the franchise, Elliot Stabler has changed drastically, and that is where fans are a little bit confused about just how much they are changing the franchise for the new show. Benson and Stabler had their moment to reconcile, and that was sweet and felt familiar, but since then, things have changed. After his wife was killed, Stabler wanted retribution. Gunn was the good guy that tried to stay inside the law at all times and just catch bad guys. He has kind of become one of them. I know that he is undercover a lot, and that might make this change more drastic, but he has done some things that are very out of character, not just for Stabler, but for the entire franchise too. He's a guy that used to spend all of his time finding sexual predators, but then he is willing to spike a woman's drink and kiss her until she passes out, just so that he can get into the house and look for evidence. It feels completely wrong, and it doesn't work inside what the franchise used to be, and I'm not entirely sure they're doing justice to who this character used to be. Next, the vibe of the show. Just as much as they have changed the character of the show, the vibe of Organized Crime also feels completely different from any of the other series in the franchise, and I'm not entirely sure that it is different in a good way. The original shows were all about real cops and attorneys, without trying to make it seem glamorous. These middle-aged people are working hard in bustling New York City. The city and its people are just as much characters in the series as any of the main cast, but they completely strip that aspect in Organized Crime. Instead, most of the scenes depict a city that is almost abandoned, the side streets and areas where no one goes. They are after these warlords and traffickers that reside in the underbelly. It is much darker, and that is why the characters in the series are probably much darker too, but it just doesn't feel like a Law & Order series. I get that they need to change things or it wouldn't be a series on its own, but it might have been better to create an entirely new show instead of a spin-off that doesn't compare. They could even have used Christopher Meloni to play the main character, but made him someone else. Fans would have watched, but it would have left the memories of Stabler intact and protected a character many of us still love. What do you think? Are the changes in Organized Crime so big that they don't fit into the original franchise? What do you think about the changes in Stabler's character? Let us know in the comments section. We love to hear all of your opinions. Next up, we will check out some changes in SVU and how the return of the original Law & Order will change things up. Stick with us. We still have a lot to discuss. Now, how things have changed in SVU. Now that Benson is a captain, you could expect her to change somewhat, but she has remained the same character with the relentless drive for justice. The only thing that really changed is that she is the one that is now fighting the understaffing issues and a lot of other drama. The real challenge they now face is how to stay true to its original theme of the police being the good guys, but to also make sure that they they also stay realistic enough to depict the situation in the world today. In a world where many people hate the police for many real reasons, it won't quite cut it to depict the police as saints. SVU does touch on some of the real and horrible things that are happening in the world, but they still don't firmly embrace it. They kind of say, yes, things need to change, but police that are like Benson completely make up for any bad police that are still on the job, and that they can change. It is still a bit of a rose-colored approach to the entire thing, but you can't exactly expect a show to change completely and address everything. Next, the Law & Order reveal. After the show was taken off the air in 2010, the show is finally back, and it has just recently started airing. But so far, they are probably the series in the franchise that has addressed the devastating events the most. They've already had incidents of a white cop questioning a black teenager and getting rebuffed, and how they need to change their attitude. They have dealt with issues like the Me Too movement, and they have touched on many real-world problems that people are facing at the moment. Admittedly, these moments have been handled a little bit clumsily, but at least they are trying to face it and not just act like some of the attitudes of the past would still work today. Some of the dialogue that was used in the first run of the show would definitely not be okay today, and they are working on changing that. But at the same time, they are trying to stick to the identity of the original show and not make it completely unrecognizable from anything we have known in the past, something that all three series seem to be really struggling with. Should there even be police procedurals anymore? The Law & Order series are loved, but many fans still wonder if these types of shows have any space in the world today. Shows that show that the police are entirely the good guys aren't easy to deal with. I don't know, but as long as people are watching them, they will be made. All of these shows are trying to find their footing in a changing world, and in doing so, trying not to lose their own identity in the process. Whether it works or not, only time will tell. What do you think of the return of the original show, or about organized crime? Let us know. Thanks for watching.